Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Gone Gaming. As always, my name is Badfish, and I will be here to take you through the beautiful city of Acadia today. So guys, what we're going to be doing, as you probably saw from the thumbnail and title and that little bit of cinematic in the beginning, we are going to be starting our first more or less high density build here in Acadia. So we are going to be building a little city off on this river here. I'll give you a little more context in the live play as far as where we are on the map. But we're going to be calling this the city of Brookline because it lines the brook. Get it? Haha. So this is the city of Brookline that we're going to be building out probably for at least the next few episodes. We are not anywhere close to done with it after today's episode, but we do add a lot, as you guys saw in that cinematic and you'll see throughout the rest of this video. So what we're doing to start out is we're just building a little bit of a sunken highway here to kind of be the backbone of this small part of the city. I really wanted to try this. I always do raised highways for whatever reason, or at least ground level highways. And I really wanted to try something sunken. I think it ends up looking pretty good once I kind of figure out the retaining walls and stuff. I cut a lot of that because it took me a very long time to get the retaining walls the way I wanted. And then right in the middle of the highway here, we are going to have an exit that goes straight into the city. So far, it's worked out really well as far as traffic flow and things like that. Obviously, we don't have near enough population to really test the traffic, but I think it works out pretty well, and the highway stretches all the way across the river over to the other side of the map, which is nice as well. You'll kind of see that in the live play too, and as we build through Brookline. But right now, I'm just trying to stretch out the exit a little bit more, give it a little bit more room to breathe before it hits kind of the city proper, and just trying to make it a little more or less symmetrical on either side. But I think it ends up looking really good. I think the sunken highway is a fun thing to try out. Obviously, this is my first attempt, so I know it's not perfect. I know it can be better. So if anyone is pro at making sunken highways, definitely let me know what kind of things you do to make it look a little bit better and a little more realistic. But I think for this first try, it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it. And, I think it's a fun little way to enter into the city. I'm excited to try like going into first person camera on some of the cars as they drive into the city once we get it built up a little bit more. So we're just finishing out the retaining walls, just kind of making it look a little bit more realistic as it kind of glides into the ground here. So just curving these out a little bit where it hits the exit and things like that. And just trying to show that we have these big concrete retainers actually holding up the bridges and things like that. And one thing you will notice on the bridges is they're kind of a little miscolored. I don't know if that's from clipping through the ground or whatever, but for one reason, one side's really dark, the other one's really bright. I'll show you guys that again in the live play, but if anyone knows why that happens, definitely let me know. So really all we're doing now is just extending out our roads a little bit. What I usually try to do is have my roads be quite long. I think that adds to the realism of the city a lot because you want your roads to go places. You don't want them to just be short, little choppy roads. So I try to stretch them out as much as I can, even if I'm not going to be building on all of them. Just to have those long roads I think is nice. And then right here, we're just adding a little extra exit. I don't know if this will continue to stay here or not. I just want another auxiliary exit for the highway. But it's a little complicated. Once I did the traffic manager and stuff on it, it works fine, but I don't know if I'll keep it just because I feel like it's too much coming off that one area. So yeah, just extending out the roads a little bit more and just trying to kind of make a pseudo grid more or less so that way I kind of have a footprint to build on. We're going to mostly be focusing on that right side that we were just putting roads in. I'm just adding a little bit on the left side here just so I have it for later. But the right side is basically what we're going to be filling out today. So to start out with, I am going to put down these mill buildings I picked up. I believe it's by Darf. I know that, and I think it's a Dubuque malting and brewing company. So it's technically an old brewery. But what I wanted to do here, if you've ever been to New England, there is a lot of cities that built up around like these old 18th, 19th century mills. Obviously, when industrialization started in the New World, they built a lot of these old mills right along the rivers as their power source. So I see tons of cities up here that just have these old mills clinging to the river. None of them are really operational anymore. In fact, a lot of them have turned into like residential lofts and things like that. I think these buildings actually in game terms are still considered industrial buildings. So we actually have working mills here. But I just thought it was a nice little addition, like a unique addition to the skyline. I try to always find things, if I can, that add to the skyline in more unique ways than just putting in a skyscraper. So I think, definitely when I was doing the thumbnails for this, kind of having those mills as like your centerpiece right out in front, I think it looks really cool. And it's definitely a New England edition. So, if you've ever been to New England, you will see a lot of these old Victorian / Georgian mills that, definitely don't still create anything. Mostly they were used for like textiles and things like that. But, like I said, now they're more residential. Maybe some of them still got some stuff going on there. I know at least one in New Hampshire is now a museum. So I wanted to just kind of have those as a cool addition, especially where Acadia is more New England themed, and just show that this used to be a nice little mill town. Brookline used to be a mill town, and now I don't know what it's going to be, but we got the mills. So obviously there was a lot of clipping just to get these to kind of fit the way I wanted them to, and to try to make them look a little unique compared to each other. I did cut out a lot of the clipping and stuff just because, again, with the way the elevation is changing up and down in Acadia, it is a pain in the butt to get modular things to fit the way I wanted them to. In San Pedro, all I had to do was make sure the walls lined up, but in Acadia now I got to figure out like the up and down and the elevation of everything and make sure it actually fits together. Like you can see, there's a little bit of wonkiness right now. But we're going to come back and detail these probably in the next episode. We're not going to do that today. So I'll try to figure out some of the wonkiness on it when I come through in detail. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but today is going to be more about just building and kind of getting the backbone of our city put down. We're going to do a little bit of detailing at the end, but most of the stuff I'm building here today, I am going to be detailing in the next episode, just because it took a while just to even get things laid out the way I wanted them to. But we will do a little bit of detailing on like this main road and thing like that. So now all I'm doing is just adding a few more buildings that I picked up off the workshop. I tried to get a lot of different buildings that kind of have this old growth vibe to them. I wanted them to look more like Art Deco-ish and not like, those sheer glass skyscrapers that you're going to see in newer areas of the city. Those I'm going to kind of save to put towards the actual ocean side. So right now we're on a river, but that's going to open up right into the ocean. And I think on the ocean is where we're going to have some of our newer built stuff. I kind of wanted to show that maybe the city kind of grew from the river and then grew its way out. So basically my idea is the main city started where those mills were, and then it kind of grew out from there towards the ocean as more people moved in and tourism started going and things like that. So the old growth city center is going to be towards the river, and then the newer stuff is going to be towards the ocean. So yeah, now again, just doing a lot of clipping, trying to get things to fit in nicely, trying to make the buildings look a little bit more unique by adding different things to them. And just trying to get them to fit into these weird spaces. So I did this kind of diagonal road here to break up the grid. I think that, especially once you have it all built in with buildings, it looks really nice to kind of have that diagonal cut through. But it is such a pain to try to get all the buildings to fit the way you wanted to. So it takes a while to find buildings, first of all, that aren't going to just clip into the road, and then to kind of get the buildings to work the way you wanted them to. It takes a little bit of time. And then over here, I'm going to start building out some apartments and stuff. I am going to kind of skip the clipping, but a lot of those apartments I'm going to put together to kind of make one giant apartment building right here. So we're going to kind of turn it into a T shape more or less, and that is going to be our big apartments over there. And then just moving around the buildings a little bit more, I realized this is our biggest building right here. It's called the Candler Building. I wanted that more in the middle of everything rather than off to the side. And then on the side here, just have a couple random buildings. I'm actually using a couple vanilla buildings that kind of fit the motif just because I ran out of stuff that I picked off the workshop, and I didn't want to have to reload my game again, because with all the mods, it takes about at least, 7 or 8 minutes for my whole map to load. It's only gonna get worse from here, guys. I know it. San Pedro took like 20 minutes to load. It was rough. So now we're gonna start the low density residential stuff on this side. So on the main street here, I'm using, these are called the Main Street Pack. It's just a bunch of different commercial buildings that you can kind of add signage to yourself, which I will go through and do in another episode. Again, just trying to get things built out. So we're using this Main Street Pack to kind of go up that diagonal that we've been making more of a main street on. And then around it, we're going to be using, again, by DARF, it's a pack called the New England Townhouse Pack. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them with a bunch of different townhouses that are very New England in theme, obviously. It's got like a couple nice wall-to-wall ones and then a bunch of standalone ones. So we'll go through those once I start plopping them down here in just a second. So these are the wall-to-wall ones right here. So they just kind of cling together, and I'm making, kind of putting them in groups of like 5 or 6 and then separating them a little bit so I have some room for detailing and landscaping later on. And then we got these big old standalone ones. There's a couple different variants of them, but I think they're just beautiful. You see houses that look exactly like this. If you go to Boston, if you go to Concord, if you go anywhere in New England, you are going to see houses that look exactly like that. So great pack. Gonna be using that a lot. We'll find some other ones to mix in with it. But that is definitely gonna be our main go-to pack for low density residential, at least in the city centers for a while. So now I'm gonna start landscaping things in here. Basically just building out a big old forest, and then I'm gonna move it to kind of copy and paste it around and put it around the city. And then we're gonna use just our normal landscaping tools to kind of fill in the cracks a little bit. So just using this to kind of get the big swaths done. And again, Acadia is going to be a very green map. I really wanted it to be forested and stuff. So even the cities, I wanted it to look like they're just carving out the cities in the forest. So there's still a lot of trees around, still a lot of greenery around, but they're kind of carving out to make room for the city around the forest. That's kind of my idea here. So just kind of editing everything in, putting more trees in, like I said, filling in the cracks between buildings, all that good stuff. And I think it turns out pretty nice. I think it looks good once we have all the trees in. It kind of fits everything together a little bit better, all that good stuff. So gonna be a lot of landscaping in this map, that's for sure. And then to finish out our build here today, we are going to do a bit of detailing here just because I did want to have some of that in here rather than just have it be a full building episode. So what we're going to be doing, we have this cool Masonic courthouse thing right here. We're going to be putting in a couple pathways around it and just kind of landscaping it in to look a little more special and unique, like this is a main building that they want people to go to in the city. I was really messing around with surface painter to try to get the concrete to go away. It didn't work out, but we work around it as best as we can. So just adding in like some fencing and some road work and stuff, or not road work, fence work and pathing. So walking paths through everything for people to go through. And it looks really nice once the city is a little more alive to have people just kind of walking through. I might add some benches to some of this eventually just so people can like walk through and sit around, because it does end up being a very nicely manicured space right here. And we definitely have to put more walking paths through. That's one thing I kind of neglected while I was doing this. I do want to make it a little more pedestrian friendly just to combat some of the stuff we'll probably have with traffic later on. But all we're doing right now is in front of this courthouse, we're making a nice little plaza for it. Gonna put a fountain in and some benches and stuff for people to hang out on. So, when the people in the courthouse want some free time or have some free time and they want to go outside, they can. We're just hedging it in as well just because I thought it looked pretty. But yeah, I think the courthouse itself ends up looking really nice. I like doing manicured bits like this, right in the middle of the city. Obviously, you have skyscrapers right next to this kind of park area, and I think it's just a good juxtaposition between like the really manicured park and the really big, concrete skyscrapers and things rising up right around it. So as far as the landscaping goes, like I said, it's going to be very manicured. So we're just lining everything with these little bushes here. And then we're going to go through and just put in a couple trees and like some flowers and stuff. But I think, lining things with the bushes really helps with the manicured aspect of things. And then really just wanted it to be a nice green space. So we're just putting in a couple trees. We're going to use, instead of the pine trees, we're going to use some like oak trees and linden trees and things. So more leafy, deciduous trees rather than the coniferous pine trees we've been using everywhere. Again, just to give it a little bit of a break and a little bit of a change from the natural landscaping that we've been using. But I think it looks really nice. I think it really pops compared to everything else. And once we really build out the city, I'm sure it will pop even more. And then just adding some lighting to the, sides of it and to the entryway just to make sure it's nice and bright for people. And then last little bits of detailing here. I did put a couple more parking lots in that I cut out just because I didn't want you guys to watch 6 minutes of me just putting down parking lines. But this is a good way just to fill in some of these awkward corner spaces and things like that. Like a building is not gonna fit here at all. But a parking lot will. So you can make them any size you want and any angle or anything like that. So I always use parking lots to fill in these weird spaces. I think this one looks really nice. I'm kind of pretending that it's, parking for the courthouse and things like that. And then we'll put a little bus station right on the end for just a little more added detail. And once we get the buses up and running, we actually will have working bus stops right there. And then just on that little bit of apartment complex that I built earlier, we're just going to put another little parking lot right here. Again, nothing crazy, just keeping it pretty simple. Again, for like American cities and American builds, parking lots are huge. We are obsessed with our cars. Public transport is just not a real thing in most American cities. So having a lot of parking, especially on like big apartment buildings like this, where a lot of people are going to be living, I think really adds to the realism. Certainly working parking lots, ones that actually work in the game are great for this. I think I just use static just because with all the work I'm doing, it's a lot easier just to pop in a static parking lot and call it a day. So that's kind of why I do that. It's just a little bit easier for bad fish for me. And then just last couple of details here. Just wanted to show you guys again how I fill in kind of these awkward spaces. So this is another corner right here, and we're just gonna pop in some trees and natural growth area right in the middle here. I think that's a good way to fill up space. We'll definitely do a couple of different things in those areas with like ads, street ads and things like that. And then on the side of this big building, I just wanted to have a nice little seating area, especially where this is, the biggest building in Brookline right now. I wanted it to look like, they keep it nice and manicured and have cool places for people to hang out, since there's obviously going to be a lot of people going in and out of there. And then finally, we're just going to add some ads and stuff along the street side. And now we're just going to do a little bit of like superfluous detailing, just kind of adding random things as I go. So I wanted to finish out this little parking lot that's right next to this really cool theater asset. It's called the Providence Theater. I've used it before. I used it in San Pedro when I did my theater build, and I'll show you a little bit more in the live play. But I wanted to have a nice cool parking lot, especially where it's a cool like centerpiece build. So we're going to use some tiling and put some hedges right in the middle, and then kind of have it flanked by these two bits of natural growth area on either side. And I think it just looks nice. It's a cool way to lead into this, big theater building that we have here. And then moving on, we're just going to do a little bit more parking and stuff kind of in some of the cracks in between buildings and things like that. Again, just wherever I have these weird spaces, I try to fill them up either with like parking or trash areas or just random stuff like that. So just kind of filling in these spots and making them look nice and pretty. And really, I just wanted to have a few extra details just kind of on the sides of these things. So you'll see me, I'm going to put graffiti and stuff down. You'll kind of see it in the background there to add a little more intrigue to some of the blank walls and stuff. That's how we're going to finish out today's build. And again, like this is our big theater right here. Just wanted to have more congregation spots for people to hang out in and things like that, especially where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic going in and out of the theater. It's good to have like the benches and stuff on the sides of it. And just breaking up the space again, just breaking up the concrete with some natural growth areas and things like that. That is just about gonna do it for the build here today though, guys. So I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely leave a like down below. I really appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel, certainly subscribe. I typically do at least one episode a week, and we got a lot of cool different builds, a lot of detailed builds in there. But to finish out the build here, we are just going to be putting down some cool billboards and ads and stuff, as well as some of that graffiti that you guys already saw. So I am going to go ahead and let the music play you out, but we'll have a live play section and some cinematics on the back end of the video. So I will see you there. Enjoy. Hey everybody, and welcome to the live play section of today's build. So I hope you guys enjoyed that time lapse. We got a good start to our city going. So this is going to be the small city of Brookline here in Acadia. So we got a good start to it with our old growth city center. So I'm just going to take you through that real quick, go over what we did today and talk a little bit about kind of the plans for future episodes. So to start out with, we got this nice diagonal main road that kind of cuts through everything that we built here today. That has all of our bigger buildings on it. So it's a lot of like older growth buildings. All of these, most of them at least, are made by DARF on the workshop. There are a lot of different Great American City builds and things like that have a lot of these kind of like Art Deco and old school buildings. But this is kind of like the center of the city. We got a nice big Providence Playhouse right here. So if people want to go see plays or go to the theater, it's right there. Got a bus stop that I haven't actually put into use yet back in this area. But just kind of like a nice little city center. This is like I think it's like a Masonic courthouse. So we're kind of using this as a centerpiece right here with like a nice little bit of landscaping around it. Bunch of different residential and commercial buildings that I smacked a bunch of billboards on the side of and just put some little parking lots and things kind of going through it. So we are going to detail this area more in future episodes. I just wanted to get a nice start to it. So going down through into kind of like our lower density stuff, we're going to do some more detailing in future episodes on all this stuff for right now. But this is all of it kind of built out. And then as far as our low density residential, we're using again by DARF the New England Townhouse Pack. So where this is a New England based build, I wanted to use some New England buildings. So these are very prevalent in New England, you know, these older style kind of townhouses and things like that. So we got these spread all throughout here. We got kind of like these more apartment style buildings with kind of the more standalone buildings as well. And we'll mix some other low density residential stuff in as well later on. This guy right here is actually a police station. This is the Detroit police station by DARF. And then this is a nice little hospital that we're going to do some detailing on in future episodes. So we'll probably add some parking in back of these and, you know, maybe some other stuff right in through this parking lot right here. And then the thing that we started the build with that I had a lot of fun with was these nice mills right here. So this is again by DARF. It's called the I believe Dubuque Malting Company and Brewery. So it's technically a brewery, but we're using it just as like normal mills. Again, in New England, this is something that is really prevalent, having these big kind of old school mills built up right against river sides and things like that. And typically these mills will now be used for more like residential areas and stuff like that they're not typically industrial anymore. I don't know if the game, okay, so they are industrial in the game sense. So they are industrial buildings down through here. So we'll add some more details to those as well as we move forward with this side in the episodes. And then of course, the thing that we started the build with here today, we have our cool little sunken highway right through here. I'm actually really happy with how this came out. This is the first time I've ever done a sunken highway, so it looks really nice. I don't know why this road is like has this weird color correction right on these. If anyone has any idea why this is happening, let me know. But yeah, I think it's a cool little way for people to enter into the city. We got a couple different entrance and exit points, so hopefully it'll keep traffic looking pretty good. And I did do traffic manager and all of these to make sure that they work properly. But that is the start of our little city here today, guys. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun building this one out. I think we got a lot of cool, unique buildings going on here, and it's a really pretty skyline so far. So my plan is to kind of continue spreading down with a little more old growth through here, and then eventually as we get closer to this side over here, we're gonna kind of do our newer area, so more like new skyscrapers and stuff like that. This is only going to be a little part of the city. I think the main city will probably end up chilling over here more than likely. But if you want to kind of get an idea of where it is compared to Moosehead, so here is Brookline right here, and then Moosehead is right up here, so you got to take the highway and loop around. But that is today's build, guys. So again, if you liked it, definitely leave a like down below. That helps out the channel a lot, and I really appreciate that. If you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this episode and you want to see some more, definitely subscribe. I typically post at least a video a week, and we got a lot of cool builds going on, so there's a lot of stuff for you guys to check out, including my old series of San Pedro. But I'm going to leave you with some cinematic shots of the build here today, guys, so I hope you enjoy those, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.